Welcome to the Spartan Society Squad Pod, aka the SAS. Each week we bring you 3 sport or society stories to break down and give you our sassiest takes. With those sassy takes, we do want to give you a content warning that some of the language used on the pod may be explicit. We just ask that you please be mindful of where you're listening and who you're listening with. With that, let's get into it. I'm with co-host Eris and Wahida. How are we doing, girls? Girls, I've never said it like that before.
Ladies, I prefer ladies.
Girls.
Thank you very much.
Yeah.
My young girls.
My young.
Oh,
Good. A little creepy.
take young. Okay.
Yeah, okay.
Oh, actually, you're
Yeah.
right. Maybe.
You're right. Like, I'll take it. Honestly,
I don't know. That's how
We're
we
under
are.
50, okay?
Okay.
you can tell the what is it, retrograde, the eclipse, the Gatorade, whatever you want to call it, is messing with us. It's kicking my butt. I'm not going to lie.
The stars are
That
starring.
The stars are
Gatorade got
starring.
me.
Oh, man. But anyways, before we get into the playbook for today, I want to go through a quick huddle. We will cover a few sport and society highlights from this week so our listeners feel like they are in the know with the sport and pop culture world. Here are a few huddle highlights that we won't be breaking down in depth, but we think are worthy to note. In local sports news, the Seattle Mariners have announced Logan Gilbert as the opening day starter, so we'll see him on the mound at the end of this month. Former Sonic star Donald Slick Watts, known for his colorful headbands as a player and his role as an ambassador of Seattle basketball, has died at the age of 73. So sending love to his family. Super icon in Seattle. Women's college basketball news, LSU's Flau'jae Johnson is helping erase $5 million in debt for Louisiana families. As part of her partnership with Experian, an extra $100,000 will be forgiven for every LSU women's basketball win in the tournament.
Oh,
That's cool.
I think I know who
that
I
gave me
want to
goosebumps.
win.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Where
okay.
did I put her in my bracket? Damn it.
In National Women's Soccer League news, Sydney Leroux announced on social media on Saturday that she'll be taking a break from soccer to focus on her mental health.
Good for her.
Good for her.
Love
Take a
that.
break.
Yes. In NBA news, Orlando Magic star and Seattle native, shout out to the South End, Paolo Banchero has recorded the most 40-point games since the All-Star break. He also led his team to end the Cleveland Cavaliers' 16-game win streak. They are number 1 in the current Eastern Conference. Well, the Cavs are. So, pretty good. Go ahead, Paolo. In more basketball news or more NBA news, yet another injury has hit Dallas. The Mavericks have lost their guard, Dante Exum, from a broken bone in his left hand. So he's like the backup guard, and he's out for the rest of the season. So, so the Mavs will likely become the first team in the NBA history to literally have to forfeit games this season due to injury and salary cap rules. Yeah.
Are you serious?
Wait, they are actually going to forfeit some games?
They don't have
They
anyone
might
they can
have
just
to.
like throw in there.
They don't have, I don't think, enough players to be
They're not
able
gonna pull
to.
anyone up from the G League? Can they do that
I don't think
after
they
the
can
after the trade deadline?
I don't think they can because of the salary cap. So they would either,
What
I don't know
the
if they're able to
fuck?
waive folks. That might be a story. We have to like dig into that. But it is tough times out there for Dallas right now, and I feel so bad for them.
Oh, have the great have
So-
fallen.
Yeah.
I'd be pissed.
Well, in society news, it's official. We talked about this, I think, last week, but Apple TV has confirmed that Ted Lasso is returning for a 4th season. No news on when the show will be released, but I'm excited about it.
It's supposed to be about women's, right? Women's
Yeah.
sport? Women's.
Women's. It's
Just
women's.
period.
It's girls.
Ted Lasso will be coaching a women's team, I think.
Fuck yeah.
I love that.
Something we also love, DK Metcalf, a wide receiver of the Pittsburgh Steelers, and literally up until last week, the Seattle Seahawks,
Literally.
proposed to his girlfriend Normani, and they're now engaged. So congrats to those kitties. I'm rooting for them. I love them. And they were set up by
Yes.
Russ and Sierra. So
Cute.
Russ, Sierra, give us a prayer. Blanket prayer for all of us.
I was
Yeah.
like, wait, what do you mean? Like,
Right,
I'm like, are we having a prayer circle right now in the middle of
With
this
Sierra, yes.
podcast?
Yes.
We're
And all
like
of a sudden, Sierra just pops it.
matchmaker. They're
Yeah.
the ultimate matchmakers. I'll take it. Well, he and I will take it. You don't need it,
Hell yeah,
Chelsea.
100%.
I'm sorry, I don't.
Well, for our reading listeners, that's
I know it's hard to say that now that
in book news, author Chimamanda Ngozi Adichie released her new book, Dream Count, earlier this month. If you think you don't know her, you probably do. She's featured on Beyonce's song Flawless.
live,
She
laugh,
introed
love.
the song, and it's like iconic. So yeah, I'm sure you do know her. In Netflix news, the movie Electric State debuted last week on March 14th. Its stars include Millie Bobby Brown, Chris Pratt, and Stanley Tucci, among others. Just an FYI, the movie is about robots taking over, which feels a little close to home. It does. Did you guys see
Yeah,
that?
it's another fucking robot movie.
Did you all see that photo shoot with Kim K and the
And the
Tesla
Tesla?
robot?
Yeah.
Is it real?
What?
Was that real?
No, I
That was
didn't see
still
it. I don't
back
know what
when
you're
I
talking
was
about.
on Instagram, and I was like, are you sexualizing a robot?
Well, they released
Like,
another photo because I saw the one with
again?
her on the car, in the car. This one is like they're on a cliff, like they're hanging out on a picnic blanket.
Are you fucking kidding me? People will do anything for money these
Can't
days.
we just cancel Kim Kardashian? Haven't we? How is she? She's not
I'm
going
just not
anywhere.
paying attention.
That's
Yeah.
fair. Yeah.
I don't really care too much about. I mean,
Yeah.
poor robot,
Yeah,
if
it's
I'm
kind of
honest.
disturbing.
Is that too
Oh,
mean?
tell us how you really feel, Chelsea. I mean, just, you're speaking what's on all of our minds. But in more pop culture news, Will Smith announced his first album in 20 years called Based on a True Story, and that will be released on March
Oh.
28th.
What a huddle, Wahida. Now let's get into today's playbook. For today's playbook, we'll start by breaking down pioneers of women's sports because it is Women's History Month, followed by discussing the Halle Bailey
I know.
Halle Bailey and DDG drama. All right, news to me. And lastly, we'll finish with a recap of the official 2025 March Madness bracket. With that, I'm going to kick it over to Wahida to run us through our first topic.
I know y'all missed me. I'm back. So, as Erison mentioned, March is Women's History Month. And of course, this pod is for the girls, by the girls. So, we're always talking about women's sports, but we wanted to take some time to just really spotlight some of the pioneers and trailblazers of different sports.
Oh, I love.
Who shattered, so many different barriers.
Oh,
We talk a lot about like basketball and soccer, so I really wanted to focus on some of the sports that we don't necessarily highlight all the time, and maybe this will be like our kind of entry into that arena, if you will.
yes.
Oh,
Starting with tennis. Before equal pay was even a serious conversation in sport, Billie Jean King, who I'm sure is a familiar name for folks, was fighting for it. In 1973, she played the now iconic Battle of the Sexes match against Bobby Riggs, who was a former Wimbledon champion.
Oh.
He claimed that women's tennis was inferior. So, naturally, Billie Jean not only beat him, but she handed him like losses in like straight sets. So she like handed him his ass, essentially. And so with that, she helped also launch the Women's Tennis Association that same year. And her advocacy led to the US Open becoming the first major tournament to offer equal prize money to men and women. So we shout out to Billie Jean because I think she really just changed the landscape of tennis. Beating
Love.
Bobby's ass. And then, of course, we know this name, but Serena Williams is one of the greatest athletes ever to touch any kind of court. She has 23 Grand Slam single titles, which obviously makes her one of the most dominant athletes ever. And like her like presence in the sport, also tennis is a predominantly like homogenous sport, helps break down barriers. And I love that she's opening up the way for her and her sister, opening up the way for a lot of young Black tennis players in the sport as well. Because we all know Coco, we know Naomi, who are all doing their own incredible work in the sport as well. So on to marathon running, which is something we don't really ever talk about. But you imagine this in the 1960s, I believe it was, being told that you couldn't run a marathon because it might damage your uterus. So women were prevented from running in a marathon because of that concern. So in 1966, a woman named Bobby Gibb became the first woman to complete the Boston Marathon. She did it unofficially because she couldn't register as a woman. So she ran without a bib, but she finished ahead of a bunch of other men. So she showed them. So the next year, Catherine Switzer officially registered using her initials. So she registered under, I think, KW Switzer. They figured this out, but mid-race, the officials figured this out, and they tried to physically like pull her bib off of her. Yeah, she didn't stop her because she went ahead and finished the race anyway. So shout out to her for, staying like strong in her conviction.
Can you imagine training for a marathon and then these men try to chase you as if you haven't been training for months to run at an elite level? Like, they're not going to catch you either. Y'all are stupid on all points, like on all and every aspect. It's not making sense.
Well, and to your point, Wahida, I think sometimes in 2025, people are like, why are women still whining about equality and blah, blah, blah. And it's like, excuse me, but in the 70s, we're still fighting for equal rights of things. We still don't have it. I mean, shit, we talk about like credit cards and finances and sports. Like, don't get us started.
Yeah, true.
When you know people that are still alive and they're like kicking it and still running marathons because they were alive during that time, then shut your mouth.
Right. And folks are actively trying to take the rewind, renege on all the rights that these women have fought for. So, don't get us started with that. But we're in for the fight, and so are these women, because in boxing, Christy Martin and Clarissa Shields. Boxing is obviously a sport built on respect, right? Christy Martin had to fight for hers, like literally had to fight for hers. Obviously, it's boxing, but she broke into the male-dominated sport in the 90s, and she became the first female boxer to gain national recognition, helping to prove that like women's boxing is actually marketable and legitimate. So shout out to her, because that opened up the doors for a lot of other female boxers. We know Layla Ali, Muhammad Ali's daughter. She has that connection, but obviously she had some other hurdles she had to overcome as a woman in the sport too. Jesus. And then like in today's kind of boxing world, Clarissa Shields is rewriting the record books. She's the only boxer, male or female, to hold undisputed championships in 2 weight classes simultaneously. So shout out, she is a badass. So those are just some of the women that I came across, when I was doing some of my research, obviously making waves in the sports world, like on the field, on the court, whatever it is. Oh. There's obviously also a lot of women off the court, like on the sidelines, who are also making waves, especially in men's sports. So of course we've talked about Becky Hammon in the NBA. She was the first woman to act as a head coach in an NBA game during, I think, in 2020 with the San Antonio Spurs, and now she's a 2-time WNBA championship as she's a 2-time champion in the WNBA as the coach for the Las Vegas Aces. And then there's Katie Sowers of the NFL. She was the first female coach to appear in a Super Bowl with the 49ers in 2020. And then, of course, our hometown hero, Jessica Campbell of the NHL. In 2023, she became the first full-time female assistant coach in NHL history with the Seattle Kraken's AHL affiliate. And she was a former player. So it's really cool being able to see like young girls just kind of flock to her at these games as well. And then with that being said, I think we've talked about this before when we talked about like the top or the 30 under 30, I think it was, women like in just women like management and managers. But Kim Ng is the first female and first Asian American GM of a Major League Baseball team. And she helped lead, or, she was part of the team that helped lead the Miami Marlins to the playoffs in 2020. So that's just a short list because there were so many other women I could have spotlighted. But, so many trailblazers, which is awesome to think about and talk about. And wild to think about that there has to be different trailblazers for all these different sports. Like, it's not just a blanket. Like, we're fighting in so many different ways to get recognition and acknowledgement.
I think one thing that I really appreciate about women, I am going to do a blanket statement, but especially a lot of these women's in sports is what you see is they may be a trailblazer in their sport, but that doesn't stop at their sport. Like, for example, like when we were talking about Billie Jean King, it's like women helping women no matter what what the sport is. I mean, Serena Williams like becoming ownership in like WNBA teams and soccer teams, and I think that is what's really powerful is the momentum of women who are groundbreakers, and that's already hard in itself being the first, and then being like, but I won't be the only, and I'm going to use my platform to spread access and popularity as far as I can. So I just love women. Okay.
I love us.
I think obviously on the basketball side of things, when I think about kind of legends, you got like the legends of like Cheryl Swoops, Lisa Leslie, Dawn Staley, the fact that, Cheryl Miller, like you think about Dawn Staley and she was legendary as a player, and then what she's doing with South Carolina as a coach, and her players that she's coached, like Asia Wilson in the WNBA and the impact she's having across that is, I think, the ripple effect of what I really appreciate is, again, it keeps like just spreading. And women's basketball, I think this past few years, especially with like Caitlin Clark's popularity, whether or not she's the one that's fighting for, I don't know how I want to say this, but her popularity has allowed other people to get recognition as well. And I think that is a really huge ripple effect that we're seeing in media brands, because I think that's always been the argument. I've heard it so many times when I was a kid. Well, like, no one watches women's sports. That's why it's not popular. It's like, well, because there's not money. You're not putting money and you're not investing there. And there's not media partnerships. So no one's watching it. It's a loop. And so the fact that folks like Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese, UConn's, Paige Buckers, like all those kids, ladies, girls coming up.
The girls.
The girlies. I think the fact that then you're seeing the media brand partnerships. I think the Northwest Soccer League National Women's Soccer League. Just
the
announced
Northwest National
just announced all these international partnerships to want to become a dominant in women's soccer across the globe. And I think that is what is a huge kind of ripple effect is you start putting money where your mouth is, and then you got media so people can actually watch women's sports, and look what you get. More people watching women's sports. Crazy.
Yeah, it's crazy that, I mean, it's not crazy, but we know this. It's just wild to me still that the default is like, if a man wants to try something in the sports world, it's like, hell yeah, go for it. But then when a woman does, it's like, no, you can't, your uterus will fall out. Like, it's like the craziest, here, we'll give you 3 mil. Nope, your body will break. Like, it's just such a crazy thing
you gave
already
birth?
that's
Sorry,
just like,
you're no good anymore.
You can't do that. So you got above the age of 30, you're basically dead. Like, It's just like, it's so crazy. This was a really cool section. I appreciate you going through some of the sports that we haven't talked too much about. Like, I've heard those names, but especially the boxing one, I don't know too much about. I am going to transition us to another story that's not going to feel maybe as impactful, but I think that we need to talk about it. So it's everywhere. And for
I've
our listeners,
never heard
we
of it.
have to talk about the latest drama with my girl, I would say the pause girl, Halle Bailey and her ex-man DDG. And it's just like we need.
I know who Halle Bailey is. Okay. She
So
is sisters with Chloe. Is that her
Chloe,
sister?
yeah,
When
that's
was
her sister.
yeah. And they're like singers, and they're kind of like Beyonce's their mentor.
Mm-hmm.
And was Halle the one in Little Mermaid, or was that
Exactly.
okay? I'm all caught
Yeah.
up. Look at me go. I don't know who this DDDG or D whatever is.
The triple D's meets? No.
Triple douche?
Okay,
Is he a triple douche?
Whoa. Basically.
Right.
For the listeners, yeah, you will know in a minute here. But for the listeners, just really quick to recap what Arisan said, she's spot on. Halle rose to fame. Beyonce was the mentor. She was in a duo with her sister, Chloe by Halle. If you haven't watched any of their 2020 pandemic performances, they were giving us life back then. So that's kind of how she rose to fame, then was cast in Little Mermaid. Also iconic. Just want to say that will come up later in the story, so just don't forget it. And then DDG. So he's a rapper and I guess a YouTube streamer. And to be really fucking honest with you both, like Halle put him on the map. Like Halle put him on the map for me. But when I was doing a little research for this, he does have a number of hits that have gone platinum. He was even on Forbes 2023 30 under 30 for like list for music, which some people say people pay for that, and that's a whole other story, so I'm not going to get shady with it, but he does, he is out there, he is doing his thing. But I'm just going to give us a really quick timeline to bring us, because I think a lot of this context helps with where we're at today. So the couple officially was together, started and announced their relationship of March 2022. So like exactly 3 years ago. Wow, I cannot believe that. Halle fans, I don't know if I'd say this or not about myself, but Halle fans were pretty caught off guard and considered him immediately to be a red flag because of some of his behavior with a previous breakup. I can't remember who it was. Do you remember, Wahida, who he was with? I think it was Ruby Rose, something like that. Yeah, and they had a pretty short relationship, but when they broke up, his online chatter about what happened between the two of them was interesting. And so when people saw the two of these two come together, Halle and DDG, it was kind of just like, are you sure? So that sets the stage for where we're at. The couple, regardless, stayed together. They were seen multiple places together, lots of media events, and Halle even starred in one of his music videos. So they kept going. It's also safe to say that during this time, Halle was asked a lot about from the media, like questions about DDG. And I feel like the media was a little bit kind of instigating, like, what's going on between the two of you? What do you think about this behavior? And I would say she handled it, like, especially at her age, pretty well, just kind of kept doing her thing. Media trained. Thank you, Beyonce. But then May of 2023, The Little Mermaid came out, and she was doing a lot of promo for that movie. So she was in a bunch of different places with her co-stars. And this is, for me, where things took a very big turn. DDG released a song called Famous, where he seemingly referenced Halle in the movie and how the promo of all of that made him feel insecure. And I'm going to read 2 lyrics for you and let you be the judge. Okay. First lyric is, filming a movie, now you kissing dudes. You know I love you a lot. I don't give a fuck if that shit is for promo. I don't want to see this shit no more. So that's line 1.
Oh my God.
And then line 2 is, she's fucking working. Line 2 is, I ain't even got enough time in a day for me to chase a bitch. I don't even ask for much. I just ask that you do the basic shit. Hardest thing I ever did was fall in love with a famous bitch. For me, immediately, goodbye. I was fucking pissed. Okay. And this is July of 2023. So imagine we've got 2 more years of this.
Oh, wait.
Almost.
Can I ask a question? How old is she? Because she's kind of young, right?
So right now she's 24. So she was like 21, 22. She was very young.
Okay. Yeah.
And
was gonna
he's
say,
27, so he was like 23, 24
Okay.
at the time. So very young, but still just so public and just like
Gross.
inappropriate.
That is not an excuse for being an asshole.
It's not an excuse at all. But here's the gag. People were pissed, but people at the same time were already starting to speculate that maybe she was pregnant, which is of its, its thing. They went through the rest of the year going to different events, posting, didn't comment on it, which is fine. Like, they get the right to their own privacy about that. But in 2024, so early 2024, Halle then did announce that she gave birth to her son Halo in late December 2023. So people were right. So all of that was going down. They got pregnant. And
Protection, people. Come on.
yeah. And now
Come
there's a
on.
baby involved, and they're both very young.
Stuck with him.
Then in October of 2024, so this last fall, DDG goes on his Instagram story and announces to everybody that they split. And there's just absolutely no word from Halle. Like, she's not online. She wasn't releasing a statement. Like, he just seemingly went on. To me, it felt like a crash out. Like, is this happening or what? But it was true. They really did break up. They were done, which now brings us to today's drama. I'm going to make it quick because that was a lot of context already. But essentially, these two have been telling everybody, because they're media trained, that they're peacefully co-parenting. And like, what else can you say, right? But in the last few weeks, DDG has been live streaming on his YouTube or whatever and airing like all of their personal drama, including claiming that Halle has not been allowing him to see his son. Meanwhile, Halle's posting on her, I think it's her Snapchat, that her and Halo, their son, have RSV and they're really sick and they're going to be off. So she's telling all the fans, hey, I don't feel good. We're not doing well. DDG is just going on live stream telling everybody, she's not letting me see my son, like just rants, like telling everybody everything that we don't need to know. And it's just one of the things that they said was that like he's also sharing that like him and Halle don't even speak. They have like a third party like mediator to help.
Either.
I wouldn't want to speak to him either. And the wildest thing for me is that he's gone on to release a song now called Don't Take My Son. And at this point, if I was Halle, I would lose my motherfucking shit. Like, if we're broken up and now you're just like doing this. I've also seen that he's like kind of like put the baby, when he does have the baby, on the streams. And I don't really know if she feels fully comfortable with that. And I could see why. Like, do you really want your son's face all over? All these people are looking, maybe not the like best intentions. And so far he's gone on to say that he doesn't want to take Halle to court, but now his fans, I think, are calling him out. They're saying like, if you have time to drop a song, like you have time to go to court and figure out an agreement. Like, we're now not buying this. Other fans in the comments have also been saying like, you're profiting off this. Like, you're spinning all this drama and now you're profiting off of like your son and trying to get us to feel bad that you're not seeing him, but you're making money off you like not seeing him. So like, it's feeling very weird. So far, the only thing Halle has said other than like, we're sick with RSV, is she posted recently just a kind of a cute little selfie with her and her microphone. And the caption just says, because I'm happy. It seems like maybe like, because I'm happy, but like also
he was like, fuck you.
And that's where we're at right now. I'm sure there'll be more because they're both because they're both young and they haven't come to an agreement. But curious your thoughts, obviously, about this situation, but it's also not like the first time we're seeing this type of behavior. Again, I'll note they're both very young, but with famous men, this isn't new. I'm thinking immediately of Tom Cruise and Kanye West, who have also done and really aired a lot of their drama with partners, with children involved, to the media. So I don't think this is just like a specific thing that is just DDG, but it's still not good. So curious your thoughts.
Stuff like this reminds me that like just being famous is doesn't make you immune from life shit, right? And it doesn't give you an excuse for because I like look at this and I'm like, oh my gosh, thank goodness. And then I also just think, especially young women that come up famous in the industry, that like I think sometimes people put them again back on like pedestals or expectations of like they are this can't do you're not allowed to do anything wrong. And at the same time, this is like a young woman that's getting raised in the public eye, and young women aren't immune from dating red flags. And what sucks is like then it's outplayed in the media. You have a kid with him because for whatever reason, and then it's just like really sad to watch, and it's like so upsetting because I think there's always a double standard. So men get to like lash out, but they still get their career, like their careers aren't really going to get hurt. And then if she were to lash out once, then she would get so much like flack or issue. I just think of even, what was it? Joe Jonas and Sophie Turner?
Sophie.
Yeah. So when they broke up and then she was going out, people were like on her about going out, but like, and Joe Jonas being like, she needs to stay home with the kid, and him trying to like play the good dad while he's on tour. Like, it's just such a double fucking standard, and it makes me really sick and sad. And I wish all across the world, women didn't have to go through their red flag phase. Like, I hope that we can stop going through a red flag phase, please. That's all.
I wonder too, like, you know how he doesn't want to go to court or whatever it is. I wonder if it's because he recognizes like they both live public lives, right? And she's really taking the high road, and he's like out here, you know, throwing dirt on her name, calling her out, like not being a really supportive partner when they were together, and also like father when he does have his kids. That he knows that it doesn't look good for him. So if he were to take it to court, he would get even less time with the kid. And I don't know if he's even thinking about that, but I wonder if somewhere, somehow, like someone on his team recognizes that. Yeah. Like recognizes like, dude, you don't have a good case. If I don't know, I'm not a judge, but like you don't have a good case because you don't look like a good father right now because you are stirring up things when you don't need to be.
If you're like an outsider looking in or trying to like bring perspective on the case, it's like, what is this doing to actually help your son? Because it's like damaging now their like reputation as a young person as well. Like they're going to look back and see all of this about their mom and dad too, that it's like, this is such you're providing an unstable environment, and like children just need it to be consistent. It can't be like that, you know? At least that's what I think. I don't know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Like just hoping Halo, I mean, I know that Halo has a lot of people around him that love him, and I hope that, you know, he's insulated and taken care of through all of this, right?
We need to stop glorifying the fuckboy. Like, I'm just like tired of reality TV and like Love is Blind shit, all that stuff, like glorifying. I'm like, aren't we over the fuckboy like look and mentality? Like, it's just disgusting. And how about we start like not, I would love if like controversies and stuff like that, we like just don't even say the man's name that's being a little fuckboy, and be like, oh, and he who cannot be named, like put him on Voldemort status. Like, I just think even about like, I mean, seriously, like what the Brianna Chicken Fry and the Zach Bryan of it. Like there's so many instances, and I'm just fucking sick of it.
And some could argue it's a protection to women to put their names out there, and you know not to fuck with them. I don't know.
That's true. That's a fair point. Like blacklist these men. Yeah. Okay.
I need to know that he's insane. Yeah.
Which is fair. Well, with that, I'm going to move us on to our final topic for today, and that is March Madness brackets. Yeah.
The brackets.
Yes, I am definitely old school. It doesn't feel that old school, but I like to print out my brackets and fill them out. I remember
she's throwing papers
back in the day how we would do our brackets because the newspaper would always post a empty bracket, and so then my mom and I would use the newspaper bracket and fill that out. So shout out to my mom who loves college basketball. So this past Sunday, we had our brackets for both men's and women's announced,
Oh.
and there was some surprises, but in general, it wasn't too many upsetting things. So I'm going to start with the men's today because I want to close out with women. So
yeah.
what we have for men's, Auburn got the number one seed. So there's remember four quadrants, and each one has a 1 through 16. But Auburn was put as the number one of the number ones overall, followed by Florida, Duke, and Houston. Now, Florida is is favorited, is in the world of sports betting and
it is
bracketology. Like, Florida is favorited to win. So the Florida Gators, and they're threw my
all
brain
of us
off.
are just like,
so they're expected to, betting wise, Vegas odds, win. Some cool things. There was a few teams on both sides, but the men's side, that it's their first tournament ever making the NCAA tournament, which is a big deal.
Florida?
No, let me finish.
Oh,
SIUE.
What the fuck?
No.
Oh, I saw this. Okay.
Yeah, SIUE, Omaha, High Point, and UC San Diego. So that's their first times.
You're telling me Robert Morris or whatever the fuck has made it before?
Yeah.
That's insane.
And North Carolina had the most schools in the tournament. I think it was like 6 or 8.
And what are they feeding the kids?
I don't know. Good recruiting, maybe. What was interesting, so you know how we talked about there's like a first round before the brackets kind of get hit, and it's called the first 4. So by the time this podcast comes out, for the men, some of that will already have been played, and then you'll have the first round. So the first 4 is not considered the first round. But in the men's side, this is a little bit of the controversy, is UNC made it to a first 4 game, and people were surprised to see UNC in there because, there's some bubble teams that they call it, whether or not they'll make it. But UNC's athletic director was on the selection committee. Interesting.
Tell us more about that. Yeah.
Interesting. But the Kansas is they have consecutively been in 35 tournaments consecutively.
Jesus Christ.
Which is like a record for the men's side, which is really impressive. Like, that is legendary status. And the SEC, god damn it, so many acronyms with these. There's so many different acronyms with this and all of the different schools.
ABC.
SEC has 14 teams in the tournament, which is a record, and that just talks about the strength of that conference. So that's the men's side. Looking at it, well, here's my question. How do you all fill out a bracket? I was thinking about this as I was filling out a bracket. Do you do it by no, not like selection wise, like actually filling out the bracket? Like, do you do it by quadrant and fill that all the way out, or do you do it by round?
By round.
Like, you go all the way down first round, all the way down first round. Okay. I feel like that's round. The right answer. Well, I don't know. I was like filling it out, and I was like, that's how I do it too. But I was like, are there animals that just like go to the match, like they do it by quadrant?
I mean, it would be cool.
It's like people that put like their sock on and then their shoe on and their sock on and their shoe on. Yeah. Well, and I think there's some people where you have it in your mind, like who you want to win. I will say this, I don't have confidence on my men's side bracket because really I haven't been paying attention to men's college basketball in the way that I have for women's college basketball. And I usually, when I look at brackets, it's like 80-20, 20% with some kind of knowledge and 80% just free balling it.
Yeah, you just kind of have to wing it.
Yeah, just free balling it. Men's
Ballin'.
feels appropriate for college basketball.
Appropriate.
But I usually like I usually go West Coast is like where I go. So West Coast
West
teams
Coast,
and
yeah.
West Coast in general. I like some underdogs. I like to see upsets during the tournament. So I throw
Yeah.
those in there. Some Cinderella stories. Love me a Cinderella story. And then I go by name. And if I'm just like, when I see these two names on the bracket, how does it make me feel? Oh, I would like this person to go forward.
Go forth and prosper.
Yeah. And so I will say, again, I think this is like ingrained from my mom. We're a big Gonzaga household.
Yeah.
Gonzaga always gets national championship because I would like, even if I don't think they're going to make it, I feel like I have to put them on there because I want them to win one. Like they need to win a national championship. So I have Gonzaga winning it. I also have I have Kansas in there with Gonzaga.
We're not in Kansas anymore.
Yeah, and then I also have some wild things like Arizona in the Final Four with Gonzaga. And San Diego, that's actually final with
San Diego.
Well, they're West Coast. So that's the men's bracket. And then the women's bracket.
Ladies.
We had UCLA got the number 1 overall, which did not make Dawn Staley of the Gamecocks very happy. South Carolina, she thought that they should have been the number 1 overall. And with the argument of strength of schedule, again, which is what people talk about. But UCLA, number 1 overall. But then South Carolina still got a number 1 seed. They just weren't number 1 overall. And then you have Southern California and then Texas. All got number 1 seeds for the women's side. South Carolina is who the odds are ever in their favor. Why can't I say that normally?
Because it's Hunger Games and it's haunting us on this podcast.
They're prospected. What? I can't think of words right now, guys.
Projected?
Prospected. Followed closely by UConn. Now, South Carolina won last year, and they've only, I think, lost 4 games in the last 3 years. So, which is crazy. UConn got a number 2 seed, so they didn't get a number 1 seed.
Oh.
Yeah, they were mad about that. UConn is also, this is Paige Bucket's senior year, and they haven't won a title since 2016. So, to be honest, I had UConn and South Carolina in the championship, and I put UConn there because I just think I really would love to see Paige get a title. But with that, with the scheduling, they have Southern California has UConn in the Elite 8. So that's like they're matching up kind of a little bit early, which is a little crazy. The Big Ten had 12 teams make it to the tournament, and the SEC had 10. Notre Dame was also a little upset with their seeding. They got a number 3 seed. It's because some are saying they lost 3 of the last 5 games because they were kind of thinking that they might get a 1 or number 2 seed. And then with those kind of losses late in the season, that bumped them to a number 3. Tennessee, which I love me Tennessee because of the Pat Summit, Candace Parker of it all. This is their 43rd straight tournament. 1982 was when the first tournament for the women's happened, and so they have been in every single one. So go Tennessee. Wow. Yeah, which is pretty impressive for them. And I will say LSU, I didn't know about the win thing, but I had them losing. They were really happy about their number 3 seed. I had them losing in the second round only because Flage is still in a boot. They've got 2 players in boots right now. Flage was still in a boot during the selection committee. because of like shin stuff. So I don't know if she's in a boot because for that first round or if she's even going to be playing. So they've just got some injuries plaguing them that I think could be a factor. Also on the women's side, we had a little bit more, well, we don't have, like University of Washington made it into the first 4. So they were definitely on a bubble. So I put them way higher, making it through the rounds only because I had to, because they were a Washington team. Like, so yeah, I'm excited. This is where brackets get busted. It's fun to fill it out because you're like, who is this? Well, you say Robert Morris? Never heard of it. Let me put it on.
What the fuck is that? Yeah.
And on the men's side, they have Drake. We have Drake, and it's like, sorry, Drake, you are not going to make it far in my bracket.
Name hasn't been good this year. Yeah.
So yeah, that's a little bit of preview of the tournament and what's about to happen.
Speaking of Drake, what? Like, you are creepy. I will say, Barack Obama used to like drop his bracket, and I'd be like, and so should I copy this?
Like, he knows basketball.
Like, does.
That was a bucket list for me for a while, was play pickup basketball with Obama. When I used to work in international trade, I was like, this could actually happen. No, that was crazy.
So good now. He's just a citizen now, so common citizen. So yeah, just gotta go to Chicago. Brackets for me are always just like a crapshoot. I'm like, I think I just don't really have a rule. The only rule is that I don't have a rule. And you know what? I love a random selection, so I might just put all the names in it, like just like randomly pick out. Like,
I don't like that.
Just
I think you should
go
just
hella random with it.
Feel it in your heart.
I don't even know how to do it.
But what if that was her destiny?
I don't know.
It's like the lottery.
I haven't fully thought out my process. It's true. I will say, I mean, like you, I always have to root for Gonzaga because I feel like of all the like West Coast Washington teams, at least, they are the ones that could do it, could take it for us. So I'm going Gonzaga in some sort of way. Don't know if I'm like have them winning, but I haven't filled out my bracket. I always I picked St. John, I think I mentioned earlier, because J. Cole went there, and like this is how random my selections are. It's just like, when have I heard about this school? So we're going St. John's somewhere. They're going somewhere.
Like, so often when we pick just like randomly, just for the fun of it, the brackets are better, and it pisses off, especially men usually, who are like, I'm studying the brackets and the bracketology of it all. And it's like,
wow. The bracketology.
Yeah, it's a thing. Man, there's a lot of things in the bracketology of, but I love that though. It's just like, I'm picking for that reason, and that's how you have fun with it. Like, you don't have to be like, who's the best, and I don't want to get wrong. It's like, fuck it. Be like, I like this one because I like going to San Diego. It's pretty.
They have the best zoo, you know what I mean? Like, just go like that. And imagine you're in a work league and you're just rocking it.
Yeah, I know. I should.
What?
I should have just like picked the most random
I'm picking
name.
Robert Morris.
Grand Canyon, I thought, was a name that I was like,
I thought that was an online school.
I don't think so.
Green,
really? Yeah. I mean, there might be a Grand Canyon.
Can you imagine if one of those fucking online schools had like just like a killer ass basketball team? Now that is a show that I'd pitch. It's virtual, and that's part of the beauty.
It's kind of like how like you're homeschooled and then you can still play on the team.
Wait, how though? Because they're like, they don't have facilities, so how would they have?
That's fair.
Yeah. For the women's team, I mean, obviously UW's on there, so as a dog, I have to go for UW. There was drama with a lot of these selections, but for the women's bracket, I know that there was conversation around USC and UConn being in the same like quadrant, because like that automatically will bump like one of them out at some point, and I think folks were really hoping to see them go further.
The Elite Eight is where they would match up.
So hoping to see them both go further in the tournament, but we might not be able to because they're in the same quadrant.
I would also argue, because in South Carolina kind of gets the best second in the terms of who they're matching up against, because then you got Texas and Notre Dame in the same quadrant. I mean, I guess LSU is with UCLA. in that same one, but that would be, again, the Elite Eight where they would meet up. So, yeah.
I will finalize my picks. I
Yeah.
don't have any strategy. I don't have any besides the things you've told me that I think I forget week to week, as we often see in the highlights. It is going to be a guess, and I think maybe a highlight next week for me, truly, to share who my people are. And with that, I think it's time for us to wrap. Thank you for walking us through that. I still have a lot of questions about who Robert is, and that's just going to be something I'll learn on my own. But listeners, let us know what stories you want us to cover next week.
And please rate the pod. But in the moment, meantime, stay sharp, stay sassy, and we'll catch you later.